jumps at you. I know it will be on the elections, and I wanted to also ask your experience, and that's if you had the time to go out to vote.
Interesting. So, well, let's talk about the papers first. It's a brand new day where we have younger people. Well, it's not a really brand new day, actually, when we look at it. History always is like in cycles. If you take a look at the generation of my own parents, they became permanent secretaries, commissioners, ministers in their 20s. They became governors in their 20s, actually, So what's happening again is shifting. So it's not like it's never happened
I remember
before.
Professor Otomi also saying that he became, I think, an assistant or an aide to the president in the Second Republic, sometime in his 20s or so.
Yeah, in his 20s.
Yeah, I became managing director about that, and I didn't inherit a family business. So, it's happened before. But again, but if we take a look, if we just stepped back and took a look at what happened, what I would say is that rather than the nation creating more opportunities, you see, there's a way. If you follow the way God designed this world, He designed the world to be self-replenishing, such that the older generations die and newer generations come. But the expectation is that the earth is supposed to be fully sustainable. And that means that it gave man the capacity to keep creating opportunities. That's what happened. The people, the elders of the past, refused to create opportunities and therefore created roadblocks for the younger generations. And they, after a while, decided to do certain things to get their voices heard. But I'm happy that we saw 3 young people coming in state assemblies. That's interesting. That's very good. I believe that one of the things we have to understand is that nature by its own self is not very fast in creating quality. It will take time, several cycles, before nature gives us that cream. But I believe that by the next cycle might be by 16 years' time, 20 years' time, you're going to see a lot more representation of the youth. That is interesting to me.
My question is, why did we have that lull? If you say that, we've had that cycle back in the day and had to wait up till now, why? Because these are our fathers and uncles and aunties.
So if you just take a look, there are theories, actually, that supports all these things. There's something we call the traditional Phillips curve. So the traditional Phillips curve talks about the boom, the doom, and it's said to be self-fulfilling, so to speak. It's self-sustaining. It's always like that, and you notice it. So you hear there's some .com bubble sometimes, and then you hear the bust. It's the same way that's happened. So one of the things you have to understand is that, you see, there's a maxim that good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. But if you follow that maxim, bad times create tough men and women. And tough men and women create good times.
So the cycle continues.
That cycle continues.
So I wanted to just add to what you just add more questions to what you're trying to expound. Some people have said that Nigeria may not have gone into a civil war if the people in charge of government then were quote unquote adults, and all of that. That's one argument. So probably do you think that that's what gave the premise to all of the older generation trying to hold power for as long as they will?
Well, and you do have a point. I mean, if you go into the Bible as well, I don't intend to preach, actually. But, you have to understand, and pardon me, I'm the son of a preacher man, and that's sacred to me. Who the wisest person, according to the Bible, that we all actually know, was King Solomon. But what happened when King Solomon died? his son took over. He was young. The Bible records that when he became king, he called the elders, the people that used to counsel his dad, and asked them for counsel. And they gave him counsel, that this is how your dad used to behave. We counsel that you behave in like manner. Then the Bible records that he then went and called his own friends, his own peers, and his peers also gave him counsel. And then he took the counsel of his peers. And you remember what he said? He said, my dad chastised you with whips. I will chastise you with scorpions. And that was what led to that saying, to your tents, O Israel. So you see, there's a way we say it in Yoruba land, that it is somebody that has not seen war before that says, I'm a man. Experience sometimes matters. And it's also limiting, because sometimes when we begin to get guided solely by experience, we begin to internalize our fears. And you see some parents still want to control their children even when they are 40.
Mr. Okiremi.
Yes, please.
Let me expound a bit from Millicent's question,
yes,
and take from what Jeff told you. We have one or two guests waiting, but we're going to go to them in a bit. Now, if, Mr. Okiremi, we had good mentoring, good examples set by the people, by the elders, so to speak, if there was a system of a transition ab initio, if that system was in place to replicate the knowledge, the experience, carry along a mentoring, hands-on training or hands-on mentoring with the young people, would that law that Millicent mentioned, would it have existed?
There's no direct answer to that. You see, when you study organizational behavior, there's a trick question every professor asks, and I ask my students sometimes, because I'm a professor, what is the best way to manage? It's a trick question, because it depends. It's situational, and I do agree that mentorship is very necessary. When I was doing my doctoral research as a young PhD student, one of the things that I thought in my field on IT entrepreneurship was I believed that mentorship had a very major impact on the success of IT entrepreneurship. But the research showed that in Nigeria, mentorship had no serious motivating effects. However, ideally, it is necessary. You know, there's a way the Yoruba say it. Pardon me, I think in Yoruba. Maybe that's a joke. You know, they say, Agbaki wa loja, kori omo tuntun wo. The translation is simply that we do not have elders in a gathering, and you have a baby that the neck is not standing right. They will correct and help the mom. So you see, there's a role for elders. But one of the things, like I said earlier, two things go hand in hand. One is knowledge, one is experience. Now, when elders solely rely on their experiences, they will be limited. They will probably give wrong ideas, because some of their ideas are not going to be in tandem with the situation. And that's why I say all the time, knowledge trumps it all. If you want to take any decision, I always ask why. If you are able to explain the why to me, that means you understand the fundamental principle, and not just tell me that in 1942, when the same thing happened, this was what we did. The decision in 1942 may be different from the decision in 2023. But I still say experience is good, mentorship is necessary, but I think the most important thing that we haven't done is we have not created opportunities. Rather than creating more opportunities so that people can try out things, we are blocking them.
Well, we have a couple of people who've just recently joined us. We understand that Chris Uwaje, founder, Institute of Software Practitioners of Nigeria, is joined us on Zoom. Good morning, Mr. Uwaje. Okay, well, we'll get his name along the line, and then as well as Chineye Mba Uzoku, who is managing partner at Grand Central. Thank you for joining us. He joins us from Abuja.
Thank you for having me.
Well, good morning. I don't know, you may have been following some of the conversation we've had, and Mr. Okeremi's pick from the papers this morning is the new kids on the block as far as the elections go in the parliament in Ogun, Kwara, and Nasarawa. If that is something that you consider significant as well from the papers this morning, how does that strike you?
I think it's a triumph of, to some extent, as little as it may be, as little as numbers may be, it's a triumph of a new generation, a generation that has been in waiting for quite a while. As my very good friend Yede has pointed out, you know, those older than them have blocked the way, and they've had to fight to get themselves onto the stage. I think it's fantastic. I think it's also important to understand that this may not have been possible without the implementation, to some extent, of technology itself. So it makes sense that a generation that is digitally native, is a generation that is also finding its way into the political space for the first time in Nigeria's history.
They're young, they're in the 20s, but they're not the youngest. Well, they are the youngest, but they are not the only set of young people. I think I also saw another report that there's a 35-year-old in Yobe State who upstaged the Speaker of the House of Assembly in that state as well. I think he's in his 30s, 35 or thereabouts. So, but the question that naturally comes, Mr. Mazuku, is, do you think they have a good enough understanding of what responsibilities they are taking up?
I think we need to, first of all, and I really, all of Nigeria should congratulate these people for doing the most important thing, which is stepping up. You know, for a long time, people have said that this younger generation is not interested in politics, doesn't engage, cannot run the distance. In some cases, they said, that they are a little bit, they make the noise on Twitter, and then they disappear when the voting actually happens, and they don't stand up to take these positions. Some of them have also fought, and let's remember that they had to fight for legislation. They're not too young to run campaign, had to fight for legislation to make it possible for them to lower the barriers to their entry into a political space. So when we say, are they prepared, I really wonder. I mean, we are where we are today, and we're here where we are today, not because when you think about the ages of the people who brought us to where we are today, then you suspect whether or not we shouldn't actually just basically scrape off the old and bring on the new. Have we done well over the last 40, 50 years? I think there's a very, very big question mark regarding that. And the younger generation tends to say that we, meaning myself and my ancestors, such as my uncle Yele, are like saying that, this is like a generation that has failed us. That sense came through very powerfully during the NSAS demonstration. Our own rebuttal was that, listen, we fought our own fight in our own generation. My friend, and late friend and poet, Esiabai Ruby, has a line in one of his poems where he says, every generation comes and goes, but each must leave changes. I think in our generation, we may not have done as well as they wanted us to, as they expected us to, but the democracy that they currently sit on was fought for by people who went into the streets and in many cases confronted the army. They had tanks facing them in the streets. There were assassinations across the country, and people who were young at that time fought the battle. A lot of them now are people, elders like Olisama Koba, Ayobe, even someone like Atedo Peterside, Aswe Godalo. These people 30, 40 years ago faced down the threat to our democracy and established the foundations on which these young ones are coming in. Are they ready? Were they ready then? I think you have to rise to the occasion every generation must rise to the occasion and do the things that it has to do. They will learn as they go along, and hopefully we will not teach them bad things. We'll allow them to come forth with their own fresh ideas, a new approach to things, and hopefully they can create a new world, because it is their future, really. So I think that anyone who has the courage to step forward and say, I want to participate in the political space and fights the battle, runs that race, deserves to be there. Will they learn? Yes, they'll pick up the experience as they go along. Some things they don't know right now, but the one thing that they do carry in their hearts is a love for the country and a desire to put their own skills and competencies to the benefit of the public. And that's an incredible thing that we must celebrate.
I know if you look at what has happened during this election, this is seeing these young people emerge as representatives of state houses of assembly and maybe some at the National Assembly is the brighter side of the whole exercise, in spite of the glitches and the things we talk about. But you mentioned the fact that these young people must not be taught some of the things that we expect them not to learn. So the first question, I have a couple of questions, but the first question will be, how can they insulate themselves against these elements that would probably be looking forward to corrupting them and then take us back to the days where we're trying to get out of?
I think we're going to see a new kind of politics coming from this generation. They are, as I mentioned, digitally native, right? So the way that they communicate, the way that they connect with people, you know, and the structure of our politics and the structure of our governance has something, it has a constituency model that requires for you to have a constituency office and to visit there. Then there's all this paraphernalia that's around that. And like I said, when we look at where we are, you know, you have to question whether that system has actually worked. I think for this younger generation, we're going to see a completely different type of politics. They're going to be 24/7 available to their constituency. They're going to be driving to create and maintain those connections. They will be constantly in parliament. They're going to be communicating at a in a much more transparent manner. They're going to be more in the now than they are going to be in the past. They're going to have expectations around producing results at a much faster pace. So it is for the country itself to kind of like catch up to where these young people are going to take us to, if indeed we actually can. We've seen this in the process of this particular election, where for the first time we had a preponderance of that generation actually participating in the election process itself, from the registration right through to the election itself. And we can see them already out there defending their democracy. So they're not going to back down. They're not going to run at the cycle and at the pace at which we, our generation, operated at. We need to recognize that there's going to be a fundamental change. Of course, the big question is going to be, do they have the gravitas? Do they have the quantum that they need to be able to make that change happen? The old order is going to resist them and is going to treat them as though they are outsiders and will try to incorporate them, if you like, bring through a system that makes them like the old generation. I think that's a big battle, how they have to, first of all, strengthen their hearts and their minds to be able to understand that there will be attempts to pull them into the old order and that they have to answer the summons of their generation to be different. And then there's a lot of work that has to be done by the public in terms of protecting these people. You know, they've set out there. We need to change ourselves in order to enable these people create the change that we want in our country. So I think they have a huge battle. I mean, winning the election is only the first part of it. The ongoing war really is about a battle against the old brigade. And that's old values, an old system of doing things, old processes, old rules, and in many cases, rules that need desperately to be broken in order that the new can come forth. And they don't have the numbers. So I think almost immediately that generation needs to fight hard to bring forward more candidates into every single election opportunity that there is. But very importantly, and perhaps what they can do almost immediately, is that they need to activate this office of the citizen that we have come to understand is the highest office in the land. And their peers, their generation must step forward and stand with these people, even as they send them into these offices, to ensure that they are not kind of like isolated and therefore made very vulnerable to the practices of the old. So there's a lot of work for us to do. And it's not all on them, it's also on us. I mean, our generation, I heard Yere speaking about mentorship. And when you think about the roles that we play and how distant we are from this other generation, how we tend to like leave them to go out on their own, and when they, or other times when they push us back, we accept to be set aside. I think we need to fight for our space too, as mentors and leaders and exemplars. Nigeria and a lot of its leadership issues have made people tend to be kind of like have a blanket perspective around performance and around individuals. I think we can say there are in Nigeria people of integrity who have lived lives of professional competence, who are allies and should be natural allies to these change makers. They shouldn't imagine that they can do it on their own. They must reach out their hands and be ready to shake hands with the generations that they sometimes despise without reason. And I think that's a big thing. You know, we must create that intergenerational conversation. We must figure things out. How do we talk to each other? How do we work together on the things that have common importance to us all? If they go in there thinking that they stand on their own and they can fight on their own, I think that they're going to have huge challenges. But like I said, the responsibility lies for us who are outside the system to operate as citizens to support these leaders who have been put into office and to create the opportunity for them to actually make the difference that they're there to do.
Yes, indeed. Let's now take the conversation to our guest who is joining us via Zoom, Chris Owaje, if you can hear me. Mr. Mbelzuko has mentioned the Office of the Citizen. I'm wondering, because there's a lot for these young people to do, they're still staying with the conversation around young people in politics. What are the agenda do you think they should set first as they open that Office of the Citizen to engage their community? What are the causes they should be at the vanguard of to ensure that they begin to make a difference? And maybe if they succeed well enough, they can populate it to a critical mass where they can literally begin to take charge of things across board.
Thank you very much for having me. I want to believe that the narrative is really wider than what the perspective that we have been able to put on the table. First of all, we must understand that the issue we are discussing is centered on technology and humanity. Okay? So the humanware is in conflict with the hardware and software of technology. And that leads to the attitude of the humans. So if you debunk or separate them together from each other, you find out that the attitude, the toxic attitude of society is what really was at play in determining the whole scenario. And the whole scenario can be computed into data chaos. And that is what it is. We have not been able to ventilate and structure the unstructured data to be able to ensure that we can have credible, fair, and free election. That's just it. All the fights we've been seeing, all the colors we've been seeing is about data. Human is about data. All those movements is about data. Who handles the data? Who structures the data? How is it imputed into computing? So I think those are the issues we need to understand. And for me, my central statement is that Nigeria missed a global opportunity, and especially in championing technology deployment in Africa. No nation will commission Nigeria, either in Africa or the world, to come and be a service contractor or a service provider for electioneering and governance in technology. Whereas if we have gotten it right, from this about 56 nations in Africa, we will have gotten at least about 10 to 20 people who will say, oh, please come and do it for us. You did excellently, but we missed that opportunity. And of course, we are faced with big data. How do you siphon the big data? And when you look at the attitudinal point of it, that is, I'm trying to collapse what Chinenye has said and what Dr. Yole Okoremi has said. If you put them together in terms of attitude, you need to calibrate what are the sociological impact. And then moving forward, you ask yourself, How many sociologists do you have in the country in terms of the power with the citizenry of 209 million? How many psychologists do you have? How many philosophers do you have? What are those faculties in our university? What is their state? Are they being given prominence? Are they attracting people to do sociology? Whereas in other climes, you find out that sociologists are at the top of the bar in considering governance, followed by economics and philosophy. So if you look at our data climate, the data is in chaos. And you need data chaos engineering to be able to ensure that it is done. So when we talk about the youth, we should not forget that Gowon was 27 when he was the head of state of this country, even if he was a military man. Nzogu, who led the coup, was about 29. So when you look at youthfulness can be defined in a lot of, not just in the age, but we have generation change that we must recognize. That is what is on the table. But you need to go through some tutelage, as Okeremi has also said. You need to go through some mentoring, all right? We must be able to ensure that we have that attitudinal aspect of credibility. The damage that we've done to this country through this election is that the brand of Nigerian professionalism, especially in technology, has been thrown downwards. And you cannot recover it until a quite long time, because you need that trustworthiness. That's the core brand, the core element of the brand, the trustworthiness that your skill using the computational machinery can work. And you can deliver as the template and the law that governs those productivity processes have done. So that is my own take in terms of, how we look at this issue from a different angle entirely. It's not just about the youths. It's not just about the elders. It is about the data structure, the data health that we consume in the country. So how do we ventilate them? We must build data scientists that can come to cure and sanitize the data. From educational point of view, you need to really go back to kindergarten and make sure that you can create kindergarten sciences in terms of toys, building kindergarten museums with all the gadgets that are running around us, so that they can understand and appreciate, the processes when it comes in. So the data we implant in the youths or in our kids matters, informing their opinion of the future, informing their attitudinal plan to compete and win, or to be able to concede, to the winner. And so don't forget that this data that haunts us also haunts the meritocracy a principle of governance. If the best cannot rule the rest, and of course you have the downtrodden that are ruling the smartest, then of course there's conflict of data. You see it in appointments in government, in corporate entities, and with tribalistic content in choosing who will be the MD, who will be the governor, and those are data conflicts. And we need to make sure that we recognize this. And unless we do that, it's not about the youth that is going to change that scenario. It is all of us. In fact, the professors that we see in there should understand that the data they are bringing out is shameful, and they need to restructure those educational patterns and data. So that's what I believe that we must put into context. And when you talk about the credibility, what is credibility really? It's about inclusiveness, transparency, accountability, citizens' rights, and of course, you find the top layer, that is hidden but not hidden, is the external observers. And going forward, you have a country of 209 people, and you assume, data-wise, that everybody speaks English. You are conducting the electoral campaign of your nation with 209 million people in a language that the majority of them don't even understand. So you see that the data conflict, both in symbol and of course in other contexts, are at crisis. So you need to sit down and make sure that those crises are done. Another top crisis is you have conducted a national population census in 2006. Going forward, so almost about 15 to 18 years now that you did the last population census. How many people have died since 2006? How many people were done? We know that there are reviews, but really what I'm saying, the import is that the national population census will have come before the national election that we have now. We will have done this national population census, say, last year, so that we have a clean record, to be able to showcase. So you find out that the data chaos, continues to build up and to maximize itself. Yes, I believe what Chinenye has said, but going forward, if technology, because all the conversation we've been having, or the media have been having, the key words that has resonated is INEC, followed by BVAS, which is technology. So I want to believe that the first and foremost, INEC must be debunked to be able to ensure that you have at least a 3-tier of INEC. INEC shouldn't be a technology solution provider. You must have a technology service commission that services INEC.
Well, Mr. Wajay, I think one of the interesting things about this issue of technology that you have mentioned is that at the end of the day, it's us. I'm actually, really curious to the time when all the technology we will have in Nigeria will be produced from Nigeria. The Okeremis, the Tinenyes, the Uwajes. You guys should be able to come up with something indigenous for us. But let's take a few messages now. Well, some news items that have since been produced since we started.
Yes, indeed. We're beginning with a release from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. He says the attention of that office, Mr. Boss Mustafa, has been drawn to a fake Twitter handle with a fake username bearing his name, in which the fake username dragged his name into making unsavory comments on the governorship candidate of the APC in Adamawa and Zamfara State. He said, for the avoidance of doubts, the SGF wishes to state categorically that he does not own or operate any Twitter handle by such username, and therefore calls on Nigerians to disregard any negative comments made with such username on Twitter against the persons of the governor of Zamfara State and the governorship candidate of the APC in Adamawa State. He finds it mischievous for any person to attach his name to a fake user account. He's cautioning Twitter users and those who respond to certain posts to always endeavor to verify Twitter handles before responding to posts or any sort. And this really fits into our conversation, which we will weigh in to our guests with regards to some of the dangers of the same technology.
Good as it is.
Good as it is,
yeah.
We have other stories as well. Let's get to what's been happening in the political space. Of course, that's what we're here on the verdict to talk about who won and who lost and all of that. Zamfara State is one of the states where the governor was seeking re-election, but unfortunately it's been unseated by the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. The Independent National Electoral Commission declared Mr. Dauda Lawal as the governor-elect with a total vote of 377,726 votes, defeating the incumbent Bello Matawale of the All Progressives Congress, who polled 311,976 votes. Let's take a listen to when that declaration was made.
I, Professor Kasimu Shehu, hereby certify that I am the returning officer for the 2023 Zamfara State governorship election held on the 18th day of March 2023. The election was contested. The candidate received the following votes. Name of candidates: Gigi Mohammed, male, of the political party A, scored 9-8. Scored 9-8. Sani Kabiru, male, of political party AA, scored 105. 105. Hashim Ahmad, male, of the political party ADC, scored 1178. 1178. Isa Usman, male, of political party ADP, scored 1136. 1136. His Excellency Bello Mohammed Matawalle Maradun, male, of political party APC, scored 31976. 31976. Usman Lawali, male, of political party ABGA, scored 523. 523. Salis Zayanu, male, of political party APP, scored 195. 195. Muhammad Abdul Rauf, male, of political party BP, scored 176. 176. Ahmed Yahuza, male, of political party LP, scored 573. 573. Saidu Aliyu Dansa Dau, male, of political party NRM, scored 2416. 2416. Lawal Dauda, male, of political party PDP, scored 37726. 37726. Washo Sani, male, of political party SDP, scored 292. 292. Umar Alhaji Sani, of political party male, of political party YPP, scored 879. 879. Usman Hadiza, female, of political party ZLP, scored 206. 206. Number 4, that Lawal Dauda, of political party PDP, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Now, same thing has happened in Rivers State, and the Independent National Electoral Commission has declared the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, Siminalayi Fubara, winner of the governorship election. Siminalayi Fubara won the Rivers State governorship election in a landslide, clearing all the 23 local government areas of the state. The PDP candidate polled 302,614 votes to defeat his closest rival, Tonya Cole, of the All Progressives Congress APC, who scored 95,274 votes, while the SDP candidate, Senator Magnus Abe, and the Labour Party candidate, Beatrice Itubo, came a distant third and fourth with 46,981 and 22,224 votes, respectively. Fubara was anointed by the incumbent governor, Nyesom Wike, who is in the last weeks of his 2 terms of 8 years. State Returning Officer Professor Akpofure Rim-Ruke announced the result late Monday night at the end of the 2 days of collation at the INEC head office in Port Harcourt, Rivers State capital. Professor Akpofure Rim-Ruke, who is also the Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Petroleum Resources, said a total of 496,852 people were accredited for the March 18 governorship election out of the 3,537,190 registered voters in the state. He explained that of the 494,604 total votes cast, 483,934 were valid, while 10,670 were rejected votes. Aside the PDP, all the party agents at the State Collation Center rejected the results, saying the figures were allegedly allocated.
Victor of ADP have 925. Tonye Cole of APC have 95274. Beke Ogochukwu of APGA 489. White Fine of APM 568. Borogosi APP have 973. Iyagba Tekena has 137. Itobo Beatrice of the Labour Party have 22224. 22,224. Agbowo Charles Ndubisi of NMPP have 335. Jacques Rich of NRM scored 2258. Fubara Similana of PDP have 302614. Abe Magnus has 46981. Winike Briggs has 664. Kwane Laye has 338. That Fubara Semilaye of the PDP, having scored the highest vote and have the 25% spread with satisfactory margin of lead, is here having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Thank you. Thank you.
what's happened in Rivers State. Up next, of course, is
Plateau, yes indeed. And the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, did declare the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Caleb Mutfwang, winner of the governorship election of Plateau State. Returning officer for the governorship election, Professor Idris Amali, he made that declaration, having scored 525,299 votes, talking about Mr. Caleb Mutfwang, against his rival, closest rival now, Nantawe Yawatda of the All Progressives Congress, who polled 481,370 votes, while Professor Patrick Dakum of the Labour Party came a distant third with 60,310 votes. The PDP candidate secured 43,929 votes, higher than the APC candidates. And we understand that PDP secured those high votes from about 10 local government areas, back in Ladi, Bassa, Lantang North, Lantang South, Riom, Mikang, Mango, just east as well as Kwanan Pan and Bokos, while the APC scored highest votes in about 7 local government areas. We understand there was jubilation after that announcement was made.
Has a total score of 151 by Maru Ankro Michael, Amos Yakubu, Amos Yabikas Adamu of AA scored 9-8, Dinka George Dua 675, Solomon Chindan 1508, Sani Dawap 1831, Sani Dawap of ADP 1831, Kashi Yandiwada of APC scored 481,370. Abashi Samuel Tapwakam of ABGA 779. Mohammed Abdullahi Baba of APM 198. Hadi Aminu Mohammed 147. Abdullahi Ibrahim BP 885. Takum Patrick Sunday 60310. Dawan Alfred Clark of NPP 983. Kwapinman Francis Bitisak 12 of NRM 1213. Mufangwan Caleb Manasseh of PDP scored 525,299. Yakubu Luka Pampe of PRP 1293. Binchak Ibrahim Punya SDP 662. Gunturi Butaman YPP 2625. Samuel Kampul of ZLP 398. That's Mutamfa Caleb Manasseh of PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Thank you.
Quite exciting times for the people of the...
I have a feeling that celebration is continuing
Yeah,
today.
it's going to continue all day for the victors there in Plateau State, where there was an upset. Let's now head back south to Cross River State, where the Independent National Electoral Commission has also declared Senator Basi Otu of the All Progressives Congress winner of the governorship election, where he polled 258,619 votes to defeat his closest rival, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, who polled, that's Senator Sandy Ono, excuse me, who polled 179,636 votes. The election results were declared at the headquarters of the Commission in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, by Professor Teddy Charles of the Federal University of Tueke Bayelsa, who is the chief returning officer. The All Progressives Congress won in 15 local government areas out of the 18 local government areas declared by the Commission.
The maximum votes polled in this election stood at 258,619, and the second maximum vote was 179,636. The margin of lead between the first maximum votes and the second maximum vote stood at 78,983. 78,983. Total number of PVC collected where elections did not hold or were cancelled stood at 44486. 44,486. And this obviously is less than the margin of lead between the candidate that polled the highest number of votes and the candidate that polled the second number of votes, that stood at 78983. And therefore, the go-to party heads of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Thank you. Party agents, you come and receive the trophy.
And back to the north, the All Progressives Congress candidates, Senator Ubasani, was on Monday declared the winner of the 2023 governorship election in Kaduna State. He was declared winner by the returning officer for Kaduna State and Vice Chancellor of the Usman Dan Fodio University, Sokoto, Professor Lawal Sulaiman Bilbis. Sani polled a total of 730,002 votes to defeat his closest rival, Isa Ashiru of the PDP, who polled 719,196 votes. The Labour Party candidate, Jonathan Asake, came a distant third after polling 58,283 votes, while the new Nigeria People's Party NNPP candidate, Sulaiman Honkoyi, scored 21,405 votes. Before the winner was declared, the Kaduna State PDP coalition agent, Danjuma Siriki, objected to the results, claiming the number of votes gotten from its situation room was 713,157, while the APC had 709,561. He argued that the coalition did not follow the Electoral Act 2022 and asked INEC to refer to the results uploaded on the IREV result viewing portal, IREV. But the returning officer objected, saying the results announced were based on the collation done, which was not objected to by party agents. The PDP agent therefore refused to sign the final results sheets, describing the exercise as marred by irregularities.
730002, Dear Andrew Abui of Afghan 1471, Al Hassan Yahya of APM 630. Musa Kalaya Haya of APP 325. Sake Jonathan of LP 58283. Osman Hungi Suleiman of NNPP 21405. Gambo Salisu Abubakar of NRM 1560. Mohammed Ashur Isa of PDP 719196. Lawal Hayatuddin of PRP 4349. Idris Adamu Abubakar of SDP 1403. Ambassador Sanin Yaya of YPP 909. That Sani Oba of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared as the winner. Thank you.
Well, for the next state where we're headed, that's Adamawa State. The elections there of March 18 was declared inconclusive by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the state, Senator Aisha Dairo, famously known as Binani, scored 390,275, while the incumbent Governor Madu Fintiri of the People's Democratic Party polled 421,524. However, INEC State Collation Officer Professor Mahamadou Mele of the University of Maiduguri declared the election inconclusive due to the margin of votes. He said, quote, elections were not held in 47 wards affecting 69 polling units, so this gives us a margin of 31,249. The total number of PVCs collected in places where elections were not held amounted to 37 and 16. He said, based on the findings and analysis stated in the electoral laws, where the margin between two candidates is lesser than the total number of collected PVCs in the areas where elections were not held, the election is declared inconclusive.
Round the session there from Adamawa State, where the elections were declared inconclusive. So we're going to keep our eyes in Adamawa State pending when all of that is eventually over. Let's now head to Kano State, where the election has been declared and the candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party emerged winner. The governor-elect, Mr. Abba Kebe Yusuf of the NNPP, has also appreciated the people of Kano for overwhelmingly voting for him in the election, which accorded him victory. So speaking to journalists at his residence, noted that the people's commitment, determination, courage, loyalty to defend their rights through the ballot, irrespective of widespread violence, according to him, was a true demonstration of democracy. The governor-elect also commended the people of Kano for delivering the governorship seat to the NNPP, despite being a new party. He assured them that he would not take their mandate for granted. He listed some of his programs to include qualitative education, empowerment, promotion of skills and acquisition, and also commended INEC and the security agencies for their role in the exercise.
Excuse us, please. gentlemen of the press, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. With deep humility and gratitude to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who gives and takes power from whom He wills. On behalf of my humble self and my deputy, Comrade Aminu Abdul Salam Gorzo, we stand before you to accept the mandate of the good people of Kano State, affirming to uphold this special contract between our party, the New Nigeria People's Party, and the good people of Kano State. Our unflinching gratitude goes to the entire people of the state. We recognize your commitment, your determination, courage, loyalty, as well as your ferocious resolve to defend your sovereign rights and the integrity of our democracy. Despite the fact that our party, the NNPP, is relatively new, coupled with the fact that the logo of our party was purely depicted on the ballot paper, and with widespread of electoral violence, you still gave us your mandate. We had no money, and due to the inflicted poverty on the citizenry, the government of the day took advantage by buying bots of the people with both the new and old currencies and distributed wrappers and other household items to voters. Against all these odds, you still came out en masse to give us your mandate. Indeed, Talia Batadabi. We are profoundly grateful and will not take your mandate for granted. Our unreserved commendation also goes to members of the armed forces who were deployed to Kano for the election, and most of other security agencies, and indeed independent electoral commission, for maintaining their neutrality by keeping the peace and promptly responding to our genuine complaints before, during, and after the elections. In the same vein, I salute and commend the patriotism of members of the media for their coverage, and also applaud and appreciate the roles played by members of the civil society and the numerous domestic and international observer groups that worked tirelessly towards ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. Fellow compatriots, our determination will be an offshoot of the Konkoso administration, and we assure the good people of Kano State of our resolve to uphold and continue the philosophy of the Konkosia movement. We shall continue with its laudable policies of good qualitative education, empowerment programs, policies and programs that promote skills acquisition and entrepreneurship. the completion of abundant projects across the state, pre-maternal health care program, and provision of conducive atmosphere for the development of businesses within the state. We cannot complete our acceptance speech without thanking our leader, our mentor, His Excellency Senator Rabi Musa Konkoso, for his untiring effort that led to the declaration of our mandate today as Governor and Deputy Governor-elect.
That's from Kano State. Just in case you're wondering, in Abia and Enugu states, the Independent National Electoral Commission has suspended collation of results for Saturday's governorship election in both states, according to a statement released yesterday by the commission. Let's get back to conversations with our guests now. Mr. Okiremi, well, Professor Okiremi.
Doctor, actually. I prefer to be addressed as doctor. When I'm in university, it's different.
I know you were reacting to some of the things you heard. We went to some of the states and heard from the governors-elect, express their joy. In some parts, we saw the rowdy sessions, those who were not happy that elections were not announced and said to be inconclusive. Would you like to say anything about any of them?
Well, I'm not a politician. Politicians win elections on sentiments, and that's the true part on policy. Rather, I like to address facts. But I mean, this is just the real nature of the world. When there is a contestation, there will always be winners and there will be losers. And because the nature of politics is sentimental, if you win, whether you win rightly or wrongly, you celebrate. And if you lose, whether you lose justly or unjustly, you feel extremely bad. So I would say it's not unexpected for us to have the big rains. But I think what we should be talking about is how do we have a system, an electoral process, the sanctity of which cannot be insulted. And I think those are the real conversations that Nigerians should begin to think of having. How do we build institutions and how do we build processes that guarantee that it doesn't matter how your emotions are, you cannot controvert. And that's what we do when we talk about knowledge in academia, when we say we carry out research. So it doesn't matter how you feel. So we try to ensure that we remove biases. So the whole idea of conducting research is such that when the results of the research come out, it is expected that if it is well done, if somebody else did the same research, she would arrive at the same result. So is it possible for us to put this kind of things down in Nigeria such that, yes, people will be free to contest the results, but if you run through the process, you would see that the results will be guaranteed. Is this possible? I absolutely believe it is possible if we just did the right things.
But one would think that, the House of Assembly, the National Assembly sat down, worked on the Electoral Act, amended. INEC sat down and thought, oh, BVAS is the way to go. IREV is the way to go. And this is the process, the results that we're seeing.
Well, you see, first of all, whether that's the way BVAS IREV is the way to go or not is not in doubt. Bottom line is, if we want sanctity, so let me make a statement categorically that cannot be controverted. You see, the best societies, the best organizations in the world are organizations that are run by systems, driven by people. Now, when you have systems, although they are driven by people, so if you took a look at the judiciary, the symbol of the judiciary is somebody that is blindfolded, carrying a sword and a scale. That's the way systems run. They are unbiased, although they are run by people. All right? So whether BVAS or IREV is the way to go, we are on the right track. BVAS and the way it has been implemented, it's a good attempt. First of all, I voted both in the presidential and the gubernatorial elections. And the Beavers did excellently well. For me, I got to my polling unit, and both times I left in 2 minutes. Yes, I left within 2 minutes of getting there. I'm talking about time to get there, get accredited, and vote. For me, 2 minutes.
You're one of the lucky ones.
I trust God. Because you see, it was easy. It was a breeze. You get there. I got there, presented my PVC, and then they put in my identification on it, and then my fingerprints were authenticated instantly. They handed me the paper. So in terms of verification, and Beavers talks about the bimodal voter accreditation system. So the accreditation of Beavers was on point, as far as reasonably on point. And also, if you now take a look at one of the advantages of Beavers, again, like I say, systems cannot be controverted easily. So you see that all of a sudden, even though you had more PVCs collected, higher number of registrations, but did you take a look at the number of votes that came in? Why do you think the number of votes that came in, even though you had more registration, you had less votes coming in, why do you think that happened? Because it was impossible to come with ghost voters because of Beavers. So to that extent, Beavers did an excellent job. I think where people are agitated is how the results are being collated and being transmitted. And that's where I think the problem is. And just like I said the other time, that, why shouldn't these solutions come from Nigeria? Incidentally, the three of us that are your guests today are all past presidents of the Institute of Software Practitioners. And this is exactly what we stand to say. Heck, all of us went to good schools. We went to the excellent schools in the world. The white boys are not better than us. It is only that I always use the maxim that the fact that you are higher than somebody does not make you taller than that person. If you put a midget on a platform and you put a giant in a trench, the midget may be higher than the giant. That's the problem. When these guys go to their countries give them platforms. When you come to Nigeria, the system puts you in trenches. It is absolutely possible to have the solutions. And I think the Beavers and the IRF need to be improved. And I can tell you a number of things that I've seen as flaws. For example, and the technology already exists in Nigeria. That's working. What you are trying to do, when they said you can transmit from the polling units, is a technology that, is running, that my company did for this country, that's been running. That's what all the payments that go in this country that's provided by Nigerian companies been running for several years. It's the same technology but the problem is the conception. One of the things you have to understand is, I noticed that they automated a process without re-engineering the process. So what they attempted to do is to, what they call the form EC8, which is supposed to be where they count the result and then they write it, and then somebody is supposed to use the Beavers, which is primarily nothing other than a tablet, to take a picture of that and upload the image onto the IRF portal, and then from that point you expect that it should be done. You see, one of the problems, like I said, is how they came about that, because they still kept thinking that, sensitive materials, EC88, somebody printed the EC88, and so on. It shouldn't have been done that way. And that's why experience matters sometimes.
Perhaps it's an instrumental.
I wanted to add one. I wanted him to explain something that I think one of our guests had mentioned about you're technical people, software people. So yes, the argument about what is real time and what is not real time. Yes. Some have said real time should have been everything electronic. That's one argument, that having to snap and then upload may defeat the essence of real time. Is there a disparity?
No, that's not the meaning of real time, actually.
No, that's what we're asking for the explanation.
So I will explain it. When we say real time, it means you do it and it's instantly going online. Yeah. So the machine, the Vivas machine, like I said, is essentially a tablet, like what Millicent has on her desk over there. It has a camera. They only built a special purpose thing because they put a fingerprint reader on it. End of story. Nothing more than that. Okay? So it could be really, but you see, like I was explaining earlier, that you see, when the Bible says that the glory of the young men is their strength, but the splendor of the old is their gray hair. You see, if they had consulted widely enough, it is the engineering. You want to automate a process. When you introduce technology, sometimes if you brought in technology to continue the way you are doing, you would, rather than reduce inefficiency, you will actually amplify the inefficiency. That EC8A shouldn't be an input document to BVAS. It shouldn't be. That's one of the problems.
Again, maybe it's, as I said, it's the instrumentality of the law.
It's not the instrumentality of the law.
Because the law is clear on some of those things.
I will explain it to you.
Okay.
Listen, look, we have done projects that are even a lot more complex than this. It is the thinking. The law allows them to do certain things clearly. I was telling, like I said, the EC8A shouldn't have been an input. Let me explain what it should have been. The EC8A should have been an output from the BVAS.
How do you mean?
Thank you. So it's simple. You have counted the results. Everybody's there. It's open glare, isn't it? As you are counting, all you need to do, all they needed to do was that BVAS machine, as they finish counting APC, the electoral officer types on the tablets.
Okay, there.
200. LP, whatever it is. Just put it there.
Rather than a document.
Why do you need that document? It's a waste of paper. It's a waste of time. You don't even need that image.
Just hold on. Let's take it to Mr. Owaje. All of you are in the same. So, Mr. Owaje, let's find out from you. It appears the institute was not consulted because it looks like it's picking holes in some of the technology that.
No, I mean, and this is what I have.
What's your immediate reaction to some of the proposal by your colleague?
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I think the issue, as we have said, INEC is encumbered with responsibility. They've done well to a great extent. And of course, we must take pride from the fact that the BVAS was conceptualized and designed by a Nigerian. And having said that, I think there's need to unbundle INEC. All what Dr. Yele Okeremi has said leads to that point. The work or the assignment given to INEC is so encumbered. And if you look at other clients, both in the US or South Africa, you find out that a technology service company or agency is responsible for developing or for deploying infrastructure. INEC is a process administrator and managers of that the election process. It's not an infrastructure company. So you need to have a digital election technology infrastructure commission or agency. And you need a voters education and awareness agency that is supervised by INEC. It shouldn't be inside INEC. It has to be, externalized so that you can now start from kindergarten to the whole process of humanity of 204 million. So, speaking to what Okeremi has said, is not a rocket science. When you talk about automation, automation is a process that is designed and tested to a functionality level. And that functionality level is to perform XYZ services. Once that is accredited and approved, that automation remains and that design remains sacrosanct. What I hear Okeremi said is that technology did not fail. Human failed technology. That is just the simple truth. The critical issue is also to ventilate who certified the beavers. Who certified? A designer cannot certify itself. There are professionals in the country that could have been called upon to look at the process, the design, and of course, give some suggestion and which will lead to the standards of certification. So there are lots of issues we need to explore under this conversation. The unbundling of INEC is one. The processes that incumbent INEC is another. And of course, the data chaos, as we have seen. We've seen all the returning officers struggling with data. There's data chaos. Data is fighting each other because technology has been, there's been a miscompromise of technology. So we have misunderstood the role of technology itself, that man can really make technology not to function properly as designed. And we need to submit also that when we are talking about beavers is secondary, because the root data, has been said, is from the PVC. The PVC, that is ported to a server and then accredited by beavers, and then the voting data that is now transmitted, to another server. And most of the 4 servers I know that are primary servers of INEC are not resident in the country. Those servers, and you can quote me, they are based in Oakland, in California, at Amazon data warehouse. So how do we ensure that we have this real-time transmission because of latency, low bandwidth, and all what's not? What is the rocket science of having our server in here? And of course, ensuring that we have dedicated network, which I know dedicated bandwidth that can bring that forward data. And of course, the beavers can do all in one rather than the paper aspect. I think the paper aspect gave that room for human manipulation to make sure that technology does not work. So I think that is my submission. And I want to also submit, finally, there is need, as a software practitioners country, there is need to establish the Office of the Information Technology General of the Federation going forward. That's some of the fallout. Because imagine in the accounting profession, you have the ministries of finance, you have all this account, and you don't have, an auditing process that is designated to look at how those accounting figures are done. And you don't have the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. Automatically, you are shortchanging the progress and development of financial culture in the country. So, software is prime. Kill software and kill everything. We run software, from other countries, and look at those countries. They have built software engineering institute all over their place. We don't have one here. We don't have one. Professionals know it. We're not talking about computer science when you're doing statistics and computer science and mathematics and software design. No. We are talking about a software engineering institute, which is a sine qua non, for ensuring that you have prime software in the country. So there is need to interrogate that, and there is need to ensure that we can bring that to the table for further discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. let's bring in Mr. Mbuzoku in our Abuja studio, and this is with regards to what the two other speakers have said on bundling INEC and perhaps the data chaos. This is something you also agree with, and he's mentioned, that is Mr. Waji has mentioned several things like where the server is located, saying it's really not rocket science, but instead it's a case of man failing data. I mean, man is it failing technology and not the other way around. But we also know that the Minister of Digital Economy talked about the threats, the hacks, the potential or the number of hacks, threats that we had. 12 million plus was the figure for the presidential election. I think he said about 6 million plus. So speak to us about your thinking when you piece all of this together in strengthening our electoral process.
Thank you. Let me just say that. Or rather, right on top of what has been said by my colleagues who are professionals, I think in many ways INEC through this election has probably brought a lot of embarrassment to our profession, and I say this with all responsibility. And the embarrassment stems from the fact that these systems that we are talking about are really not complex systems relative to the kind of things that Nigerians do every single day. The systems that INEC refers to, has used in the course of this election, are very simple systems, starting from the BVAS, actually starting from the voter registration system itself, through to the BVAS and the reporting on the IREF portals. I mean, these are very, very basic things, and there's nothing in any of these components that Nigerians cannot deliver. And so, if indeed BVAS and the technology, the software lies on top of this was actually taken from abroad, I just, I don't really know what to say to that. It's completely unnecessary, and I'll just break it down in a very, very simple way. Every single day, most of us will probably go into a supermarket. We pick things off the shelf. We take them to the checkout counter. And the checkout counter, they are scanned using a scanner, and the numbers are displayed on a device, right? The POS terminal. And it shows you the items that you've bought, the cost of those items that you've bought. And it is actually totaled. And this is very important, that if you buy 20 items and you have the full cost, the system that is there actually just adds these numbers up together. And just shows you that. Then what you do, you then decide you want to pay with your card, and they give you a card and you swipe your card. The card connects through a network and authenticates that you have the money inside the system, inside your bank account, deducts the money, transfers to the merchant, and what happens? You get transaction approved. Transaction approved, and what happens? Immediately they print you a ticket. And that ticket shows, what it is that the successful transaction financially, and then they print out the results that shows you what the items that you bought, and then you leave. We do this millions of times across the country, riding on top of systems that have been built by Nigerians from end to end and are operated successfully. And generally speaking, will work 99% of the time. There is no difference between what I've just described and what is happening on the BVAS. Indeed, the POS terminals that you have in these supermarkets are more or less what you have as your BVAS. So there is a need for us to demystify these conversations around what INEC has put together. It is not a complex system at all. Indeed, that device has been found online for about $30. It's a simple Android tablet, and it is probably less complicated than your phone that you have inside your pocket, which allows you to connect, to talk to people, to take photographs, to take videos, and to run even applications like spreadsheets and word processors. If a phone that you have in your pocket can do this, what is this big thing about this BVAS that makes it impossible for us to deploy or for us to even assemble? I'll come from I want to touch on three basic things. Yele was right in terms of the inputs and the outputs. It's a very simple thing, right? So you've done your counting. As far as the accreditation is concerned, the BVAS did what it was supposed to do, and probably would score as high as 90, maybe even 100% in some locations. So we have absolutely no problem with what it did. What the BVAS has on it is a subset of the electoral register for that particular polling unit. And when you get to that polling unit, you basically just authenticate yourself against what is contained on the BVAS. It takes a picture of you to confirm, does facial recognition, and it authenticates maybe with your thumb, with your fingerprint that you are who you say you are, and you're accredited. To that extent, the BVAS has done its job. The next part of it was where we got a little bit confused as professionals, and I think Nigerians as well were also, led down a pathway that is leading to this, that is actually causing this confusion. Now, what is the result of a ballot, of a poll that has taken place at a polling unit? Is it the paper, or it is the actual count? What we are interested in Nigerians and any election system is the actual count per party. And as Yere explained, what we do is that we take a photograph with the BVAS of the results. We don't take the results. And so when you take a photograph, all you're doing is like me taking a picture of you. It's a representation of you, a facsimile of who you are. It isn't you. The actual results are the numbers recorded for every single political party. And that is not actually transmitted, which is why even if there is a steady and constant connection between the BVAS and the servers which are reporting the results, all that you would see is a photograph. The actual numbers still have to be extracted manually from that photograph and put into a system for you to be able to add it up. If I pile 174,000 polling units, 174,000 photographs, I still do not have an election result because there is no way to count the numbers on the photograph. You have to accept to do it manually, which means that transmitting to the IREF portal, unlike what Nigerians actually thought was happening, IREF was not actually collating the results, because all that BVAS sent was an image, and you cannot extract images, you cannot extract results from that image except you do it manually. There are very simple options. If the BVAS, for instance, had been able to scan the Form EC8 and convert it to a PDF, we all have PDFs on our phones, or convert it to some other format that allowed it to actually extract the data, it's a different story. But I'll tell you what has happened, right? Between the debacle of the 25th of February and the elections of Saturday, what did Nigerians do? Nigerian technologists, the same people who could easily have built this system, literally created what the BVAS should have been. In many cases, it took them only 7 days. And many of us have seen these portals, have seen these applications deployed since the February 25th, where you not only can submit a photograph of the Form EC8, but you're able to actually impute the numbers for each of those elections. Had that been done, then truly the collation would have happened electronically on the portal, and there would be no question of the trust, because you would have two things. You would have an image of the Form EC8, and you would have beside it a tabulation of the numbers on that Form EC8, and anybody could have easily compared the two to see whether or not the results that were on the image are the same as the numbers that you've tabulated here. And we would have had maybe perhaps what would have been the freest and the most accurate election in Nigeria's history, having deployed these machines. I do not understand how come this was not done. I can only speculate that it was a failure of the human beings from the perspective of the design of the system itself, and eventually the implementation. On the server side, where these results are put, the computers tend to replicate human beings. And I'll tell you one of the things that is crystal clear to us as technologists. Computers don't tell lies. You can program, unlike human beings, computers will always record what happens on them. You can program it to attempt to tell a lie, but guess what? It always keeps a record of everything that you do. Every single activity on the BVAS and on the server that happened in the course of those elections, there is a digital trail sitting there, and it's indelible. You cannot delete it. INEC should be interested in running a forensic audit of its own results to determine where the system actually performed in what manner. Similarly, every time, for instance, that the BVAS attempted to connect to the internet, right, to upload that, a record is kept on the BVAS.
Just a quick one, because
and that record will tell you, even the photo.
Just one moment. My sincere apologies, because we really have to go shortly.
But
let me just ask you this. Are you saying that the INEC server hack was a ruse?
No, I'm not saying that it was a ruse. I'm saying that they should be able to tell us, give us the details of how that hack actually happened. Because when you hack a system, you always leave a trail. You not just have the incident reported that an attempt was made to hack the system, but it also tells you what exactly was done. Okay. That system should have been tested, and it should have been kind of like protected and secured in such a manner that even though the hacks were attempted, they would not have gotten to the actual results. Okay. And it's important for you to understand this. Again, remember that the BVAS has an offline version, right? So the BVAS, in taking the photograph and storing the records at each of the polling units, has on itself the actual data. So even if the servers themselves were hacked and results were changed there, the BVAS actually has the correct results as photographed at that time. And every photograph taken on the BVAS has not just the identity of that particular BVAS, it also has a timestamp and a date stamp. It tells you exactly when that picture was taken and on what particular machine. And it's not something that you can actually delete from that site. So there's enough data. In fact, there's an abundance of data out there for us to verify and authenticate the elections.
He's saying that everything is, recorded. But my fear is there's no place it says our elections will be done electronically, because that would mean...
You know what I'm going to call, gentlemen and ladies, you know what I'm going to call for? I'm going to ask these ISPON and all the other, because I know the ICT sector in Nigeria is quite a wide one. So I'm going to ask that you guys should just come up with a digital conference of sorts, so that we can at least make propositions to the federal government in the coming days. I remember that at the end of during the swearing in of late President Umar Yar'Adua, he said that, look, he's going to do something about the process that brought him into power, because according to him, it was flawed. Now, with this one, that it's glaring, everyone is raising questions about this one. Jeff, we really have to go. I'm sure you know that. Because we know that the issues have been raised, and this has been frontal. Technology has been frontal in all of this. It's about time we really sat down to have a conversation around this process. So much is wasted. So much time is wasted. So much money is wasted. So much human resources are also unleashed every time we have elections. Does it have to continue that way? Gentlemen, I have to thank you for your time this morning, and trust that we should have this conversation another time. Dr. Yele Ukiremi is founder, Precise Financial Systems Limited, and former president of ISPON. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Chinenye Mba Uzuku is managing partner at Grand Central, and is also past president of the Institute of Software Practitioners of Nigeria, as well as Chris Uwaje, who is a past president of the Institute of Software Practitioners of Nigeria as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your expertise that you have brought to us this morning. Standing by right now in Kaduna is my colleague Emperor Simon to give us some updates in Kaduna. Good morning, Emperor.
Yeah, good morning, Ayo, and welcome to Kaduna State. Currently, we are on the street of Kaduna State, and it seems like election has been concluded with the announcement of results by the Independent National Electoral Commission here in Kaduna State, which declared the APC candidate, Senator Ubasani, as the winner of the polls. And we're beginning to get reactions from both the side of the victors and the side of those who lost in the election. Senator Ubasani had said after the announcement of the election that it is a victory for the people. And he also did mention the fact that he is willing to work with everybody. He said particularly that his government will be an inclusive one in Kaduna State. But of course, yesterday we saw that the polling agent of the People's Democratic Party had refused to sign the result sheet on the basis that his party does not accept the outcome of the election, and he said that it is because the election, the process didn't follow the Electoral Act 2022. The NNPP candidate also, the NNPP polling agent or coalition agent, I beg your pardon, also made mention of the fact that his party was not satisfied with the outcome of the election. And so it's been reactions from parties and their candidates or their representatives, towards the election, the outcome of the election. And here Kaduna is already picking up. You can see the street is back to life. Vehicles are moving, businesses that have been shut for close to 2-3 days are now picking up, and they are beginning to open up for residents to do business. But you see, beyond the parties and their candidates, we also have residents of Kaduna State here who would give us a perspective of what they think about the outcome of the election. I have a gentleman here. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Don't worry, I'll hold the mic.
Okay, okay.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Okay, so let's hear from you. What's your take about the outcome of the election?
Okay, the election, like yesterday afternoon, everywhere was scanty, and everybody is thinking the election might be turned to something else. But during the evening time, with the government security agencies all around, especially in this Kaduna South here, so as they announced the result, everybody was thinking that maybe there will be talks roaming around the town. But as they announced the result, everywhere was calm, and there are movement of cars. Everywhere is open, and every business is moving well here in Kaduna South.
All right. As a resident, are you satisfied with the outcome of the election? Does it reflect what you expected?
Actually, it reflects what I expected.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We also have another resident here who would also give us his own opinion on the outcome of the election. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. So you've seen, finally, after about 3 days of waiting keenly for the outcome of the election here in Kaduna State, results has been announced and the APC candidate declared winner. What's your take on the election generally and the outcome?
Yeah, where I reside, election went well, smoothly, and there is no any hiccups, apart from some rumors that we hear. I know how fake news fly these days. But for what I can see for myself, election went smoothly, where the advantage I have to move within the area I reside. There is no any cause for alarm.
But do you think the outcome reflects the people's wishes?
I can only say for myself, because different people with different opinions. Like in Kaduna, where I reside now, though where I reside is not too far from here. This is Banawa, Kaduna South local government, but where I reside is the neighbor local government, which is Chukum local government. Prior to the election, we had different people with different opinion. Different people have their different candidates, and they have reason why they are doing that. But like yesterday night before the announcement of the results, there is this fake news that came around 6 o'clock, and people in that area were busy celebrating, jubilating that their candidate has finally won, despite the fact that the official result has not been pronounced. But at 10 o'clock, when the official result came out, and they were kind of disappointed. That's the power of fake news, how this wrong information, you can't verify it. So, but with the presence of the military guys around, I think they are in different strategic location. I think that gave people confidence to come out in mass today. As you can see everybody busy going about their daily activities. And the way I'm saying things, I don't think there's going to be any problem.
Yeah, thank you very much. We hope that there won't be any problem here. Ayo, so you've heard from the residents who are, of course, the people that have expressed their wishes for the government or the person that would lead them for the next 4 years. And so they have spoken, they have said, but that of course is not a reflection of the entirety of residents here in Kaduna State. Ayo.
Oh, okay.
Let's go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Emperor, I wanted to find out from you. I could hear the gentleman talking about fake news, and he also mentioned the fact that some people were celebrating before the official announcement, and when the official announcement came through, they were not quite happy. So on the side of the victor, I mean, Senator Uba Sani, who emerged victorious in the exercise, have you heard anything from him directly or caught him on camera talking about how he could, because it was a close call, how he could unite the people, because now he's governor-elect, he's governor in waiting. Is there any conversation, is there anything you're hearing from that camp about how to just ensure that people are confident in the leadership going forward?
Yeah, so let me just say something with regards to what the last speaker said. The fact that some persons went to town to start celebrating, particularly supporters of the People's Democratic Party went to town to celebrate the victory of their candidate from results they got somewhere. Those were not results announced by INEC. And so they went to town. I even heard that a particular individual bought drinks for some supporters to celebrate the victory. But sadly, INEC declared the result, and you know, it turned out the other way around, that the APC candidate was declared winner. And the PDP coalition agent, like I said, also objected. He was relying on the IREF, which from what I saw this morning, only 93.1% of results have been uploaded onto the IREF. We still have some local governments that have not uploaded as much as 150 results on the IREF. So he relied on that, and I want to believe that some of the supporters also did rely on that to go to town to celebrate, but it turned out the other way around. Now, coming to the issue of Senator Uba Sani, yes, he has spoken to journalists where Channel Television was well represented, and he did mention the fact that he's pleased with the outcome of the election and is hoping to unite the people of Kaduna State. Don't forget that Kaduna has its challenges regarding security. Over the last 8 years, we've seen how insecurity has torn apart several areas, several parts of Kaduna State, and that also in a way affected the decision of the people as to who they want to govern them for the next 4 years. So it's going to be a hard nut to crack for the APC, the governor-elect, Senator Uba Sani, who will have the work of bringing different parts of this state across religion, across tribe, to ensure that Kaduna State regains its status of a liberal state, a one-time capital of the northern region in Nigeria, and one time the center of commerce in the north particularly. So we're hoping that the governor-elect will reach out to everyone to ensure that he brings them on board. Over to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Emperor, for your reporting. We'll keep our eyes in other areas as well. Thank you so much for your reporting Gentleman and lady, I think I got it this time. I'm always finally getting it.
All right, well, so we'll take a short break now. When we return, another set of guests have joined us, and there are always more angles to this whole conversation. How to make Nigeria better, one step at a time. Stay with us.